How is your project coming, Dion? Oh, she must have stepped away for just a moment. Not a worry, not an issue. And then Lacey, you are working on your hoodie. Your new going to be your hoodie, right?
Yeah, I just have a picture. I know that we're supposed to do the half patterns, but if I make a pattern from an existing pattern, I'm not like profiting from that pattern. I'm just going to make it to where it's different.
One of my favorite sayings is work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. See if I have horrible light here. So that's a terrible picture. I don't draw. I was thinking about doing the dolman sleeve just because for myself, I have such broad shoulders. I don't want to attempt how to pattern a raglan. So I think I could probably figure out a dolman better than a raglan. And then, yeah, try it that way. So.
Okay. Well, I think you can do that too. Do you have the book? Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, tonight go ahead.
Go ahead. I read through how to pattern a raglan sleeve and I was like, this doesn't seem that bad, but I'm very scared and my time is limited really at the moment. So
it's not that bad, but it's definitely other considerations that like when you draft a regular sleeve from scratch, you consider the sleeve cap because it's sewn in and like the motion like this. Raglan has a lot more space for your arm. There's a lot more movement available, like to have all that movement, but you will not be as flush and tailored to the body. So just
yeah.
Dolmans are fun too. So I see Dion is having she has no mic or camera tonight, but she can hear me. So I am going to go ahead and do my pocket demonstration. I'm going to demonstrate 2 pockets as far as patterning. We're going to do the patch pocket and talk about what we kind of think about and look for a patch pocket pattern, as well as a set in pocket. So think the pockets that like in your side seams. Moving into the next quarter or the next semester, whatever you would like to call it, we're going to get into welt pockets as well as the pockets and fly sewing, how to sew a fly in pockets for next in the spring, whatever we call it, semester, quarter, I don't know what we call it. So let me go ahead and change my camera around. Excellent. So when we're patterning our patch pocket, we're going to start with a patch pocket. You'll need to consider having a little bit different seam allowances depending on what material you're using and where it's going to be placed. So for a jean pocket, you can usually get away with 3/8 seam allowance. You don't necessarily need the whole 1/2 inch. But we'd want to start for our patch pocket, just going ahead and drawing out the shape and size that we want for our pocket piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll do a point in the middle. So I'll bring this to here, make a jean backpack point, jean pocket, patch pocket. It's a very small one. And I'm just going to start by drawing the shape of this pocket that I want. So if I say I want this to be my pocket, things to consider when you're drafting your pocket is think about scale and size. Can you even see that, or is it the pen too light? I'll just go ahead and use a Sharpie. You think about the size and scale. So for instance, if I am going to use this pocket to hold my wallet, my keys, my cell phone, I always like to make my pocket wider and bigger than my device. So for instance, my cell phone's going to stick out at the top of this pocket unless I make it a longer pocket, because not only do we have to think about the width of the phone, we also have to think about the depth of the phone or the item that you're going to be placing it in. Width-wise, this looks pretty good. I've got about a 1/2 inch on either side of the phone, so that's plenty of space so that this phone isn't going to be pressed into my body to get it into the pocket. But again, I said the height is a little off. So I'll go ahead and make this pocket a little taller. I don't think my Sharpie is even working. So I'm making a jeans pocket specifically for my cell phone. And you don't have to do these little pointed corners. It's just a style that is pretty popular right now. You can also do a blunt corner or you can do a rounded corner. It's however you'd like. So if I want my pocket to fit my cell phone, I don't mind if a little bit sticks out of the top. I'm going to go ahead and call this my pocket right here. And then I need to think about seam allowance. If this is going to be denim, I can go ahead and do the standard 1/2 inch, or sometimes, like I said, you can get away with just doing a 3/8. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it simple. We've been using 1/2 inches all quarter, so we're going to continue with our 1/2 inch. And then we have to think about how we want the top to be. The top of the pocket is going to get a lot of wear because that's where our hands are going to enter into the pocket over and over. And so we'll have a lot of abrasion. We've talked about this in our fashion study. So a lot of rubbing is going to happen right there. So we'll want to have a couple folds just to kind of give that a little bit more protection. Oftentimes a pocket, the edge will have 2 folds. One will come down a lot larger than the second part will come in so that it will hide the edges. So we'll go ahead and do a 1 inch fold. And then I'll do a 1/2 inch secondary fold. Before I stop, I know that I'm going to be slashing when I fold this. I can either slash my corner and cut away my when I sew it. I can either cut away this point so that each folds really nicely, or I can know that I'll have a little bit extra bulk in this corner. So my pattern is essentially done, but I want to show you how we're going to sew it without just visually with the paper. I'm going to go ahead and make a notch right here on either side of where I want the top of my pocket to rest. That way I know that this fold line folds right here across the sides. I don't have to, but if I want to, I can go ahead and make a notch also where my 1/2 inch point is too, because essentially what's going to happen is this will fold over and we will do our top stitching with no raw edges showing on our fabric. But typically when we go to sew our pocket, if this is right side up with our pluses and numbers and letters, we're going to fold over the first flap this so that it's wrong sides together. We'll press it, and then we're going to press it right sides together for that secondary fold and go ahead and stitch the sides here. So what that's going to allow, if we clip these corners, we'll be able to flip this and have all of our fabric ready to go towards the inside. Let me go ahead and cut this out and demonstrate.
I just had a huge light bulb moment with your explanation. Thank you so much. That
yeah?
makes so much sense. Yeah, because you fold it right sides together. I never would have thought of that.
Well, yeah, let me show you. Let me grab a piece of denim so I can show you so you'll see both sides of the fabric. Let me find a fabric that has two sides, face. This is not denim, but it has a right side, wrong side that will make this demonstration very clear. Oh, I can see you, Dion. Yay! Okay. So like I was saying, we'd have our notches just at these fold points. Really only need right at that first fold where we know that's going to be the edge of the fabric. I'm going to go ahead also give my 1/2 inch fold a little notch too so that it's very clear. So with my fabric, I'm going to start when I go to sew it by flipping this right on that 1/2 inch line. You press this. So then I'll press this first wrong sides together for my first flap so that when I press these right sides together, I can stitch this knowing that when I fold it the other way, it will go ahead and fold right side out. So what I'm going to do is just stitch right along the side seams, right at my 1/2 inch seam allowance, because it's 1/2 inch seam allowance around all of this extra. So now that I have my top stitch like this, I can clip these corners right at the top. Flip that pocket flap over. So I have a nice clean edge to it. And then go ahead and press my edges down on either side. So you can either press it up, and depending on the fabric, on how much extra fabric there is in there. So this is a sateen. So it's got, it's very fine fabric. I can go ahead and fold it like this. But if I have like a 14-ounce denim, I might go ahead and clip just a little bit of that extra out and then fold it up so I don't have too much bulk like that. So that's what I was saying with the pocket piece. And then what's left is, before stitching it to the garment, I'd go ahead and do a top stitch here that will keep this nice and sealed. And then I would stitch around the whole pocket to stitch it down, making sure to back stitch here. Oftentimes we'll see, yes, Kagome. There it is. Oftentimes we will see triangular stitching like this in the edges of our pockets. And the reason we see that is because it's like a giant back stitch. So I'm not sure if that chalk is coming up very well, but essentially you'll start right in this lower corner and stitch up towards the pocket opening, stitch over, and then stitch back down. So it's giving it multiple lines of stitching to, again, this is where most of the stress is on the pocket, to go ahead and reinforce that pocket and then stitch down and around the whole thing. Depending on the material choice too, this being a nice fine satin, I would also want to go ahead and pattern a piece of interfacing for these fold areas right here. Depending on the fabric, I might go a little bit over here, because knowing that this folds over like this, that would also reinforce this edge. If I have a nice heavy denim, I don't have to worry about putting a little interface in there, because the fabric itself is already very sturdy. Are there any questions on patterning a patch pocket? No? Excellent. So again, things to consider when patterning your own patch pocket is, where is it going to be placed? Patch pockets are typically on flat surfaces. So, and you could put them anywhere really, but we'll see them on our back sides often. We'll see them on our front thighs as well. And we have what's called a cargo pocket typically on our thighs that sticks out away from the body as well. But patch pockets, you can really put them anywhere, but consider what you're going to put in them when going ahead and deciding what the size is going to be for the patch pocket. And that's important, not just for the patch pocket, but also for the set in pocket. So if you have a skirt or a dress and you have a side seam, you have an opportunity to put a pocket in a side seam of a skirt or a dress. And this is similar to the patch pocket, where you have some freedom in drafting it. What you're going to want to consider, what your constraints going to be, is the opening of your pocket. And you'll want to think about what you're going to be putting in and out. So what does the opening need to be? I typically like to think about the opening of my pocket as my hand at rest, just the width of it going, so that I can go in and out of the pocket easily. So I'm going to go ahead and use my hand as my guide for my set in pocket. and make a little mark here. I'm right-handed and using the left hand with my pen it's very awkward. And say that I want to have my opening to be 1, 2, 3, 4.25 wide. You can make it larger or smaller up to your preference. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by squaring out, not including seam allowance. This is just start squaring out from where I'm going to open. I know I want this pocket. It's going to roughly look something like this, right? But we're gonna find it a little bit nicer. And just like with the other pocket, I like to think about what I'm going to be putting inside. So I'm going to be putting my cell phone. Say I'm going to be putting my cell phone in this pocket, in this box of pins. Well, because my pocket is so much wider now, or my desired garment, I might want to make this pocket a bit larger to accommodate that. Although unlike a patch pocket, where it's a single pocket against the self of the fabric, this pocket is going to be patterned in sets of 2. So you actually will have the quantity, the volume of space will also be in this direction because you'll have 2 of these sewn together right along the stitch edge. So you'll have a little bit more space and more give, especially with this opening. You'll want to consider if you're going to put a lot of stuff in your pocket itself is going to, like, this opening is going to distort somewhat. So instead of it being flat on the side seam, the heavier and the wider the things are, your side seam's going to buckle and it's going to screw the pocket. Instead of laying like this, will start to lay more like this, the more weight and the more wide the objects are that you have in there. Which makes sense, right? So if you have nothing in your pocket has nothing to open it. But if you put a little bit in the pocket, you might have a little opening, but if you put a lot and it's really wide, you're pulling the 2 pieces of fabric apart more and more, it's more likely to buckle. So once I've squared out just a little bit from my start, so this is going to be the top of my pocket, this will be the bottom. I'm going to find some good curves. Just kind of be free forming about it. I want this pocket, thinking about how gravity works, I want this pocket to sit down. And so I don't need as much volume at the top of my pocket. I could even make this a little bit narrower because I don't need so much volume here, because everything's going to sit down here in my pocket. So with my set and pocket, my space down here is really crucial. And I'm just free forming, like just kind of trying to find a shape that will accommodate everything I want to carry. I can't let this curve go beyond my opening line, so I'm going to have to bring it in a little bit because I don't want it to stitch into the side seam and stick out. You can find something like this. And now I'll highlight the pocket I'm going to keep with my Sharpie. There we go. So I now have a nice white pocket. I can easily carry my pins in here. And would probably need to be a little bit deeper and wider if I wanted to do both. I'm a little bit constrained to the width of my paper right now. Same thing. I could get away with a 3/8 seam allowance, but I'm going to keep it simple because we've been working with 1/2 inches all quarter. And I'm just going to go ahead and give myself a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. And I'm going to need a seam allowance here so I can stitch into my garment. And the reason we want it to push out from it is so that when we stitch it to our garment, we're not getting the actual pocket connected. And I'm worried, looking at the width of this, that I might actually get a little bit of this pocket bag connected. So I'm going to go ahead and push this out just a little bit further, maybe another 1/4 inch, so that I can not have to worry about and then this is the pocket size, and this is going to be our seam allowance line, and it will blend around like this. I will want to do at least a single pair of notches on my pocket because we're going to cut 2 of these because they're going to be sewn together to create our pocket bag. And then I will want to have a notch on my pocket, and it will correspond to a notch on my skirt or dress. Oftentimes, I like to have this notch on my pocket match up with my hip notch so that my hip notch on my skirt or my dress, I'm utilizing that same placement for my pocket. And if you think about where you put your pocket, your hands into your pockets naturally, you do it just about at your hips. Typically, if you think of like at your hip measurement, maybe a little bit lower. So think about where to place this notch in relationship to that, knowing that all of this is going to be in the bottom portion. So then this will be cut to, we'll say contrast, so contrasting pockets. And this will be big old I just had it in front of me. Oh, there they are. And what's different about sewing this compared to sewing other garments is that you can get really thrown off. At least I did. And a lot of my students get really thrown off when we first start to construct this pocket and actually sew a side pocket, inset pocket into a skirt or a dress. I'll go ahead and cut 2 of these. Of course, my fabric is nicely pressed, right? I would never demonstrate on wrinkly fabric. it might impact the accuracy of my cut if I don't press it first. I am using way too many pins, but you know. I'm pinning, and I think I've talked about pinning already, but I like to keep the ball, if I'm using a ball pin, in the inside of the pattern so that the edges of my pattern have the least amount of distortion. Make sure I clip my notches, and then I'm going to cut 2 panels to represent my skirt sides. And I'm going to say my hip notch on these. Right here. Excellent. Okay, so give me one moment. I'm going to press this, and we are going to stitch these. We're going to talk about how we're going to sew in our set in side pockets. If we want to do our skirt with the inside of our pocket to have our fashion fabric showing, so that we don't have this side inside our pocket, we want to have this side. So we put our hand in and we're touching the face of the fabric. We want to think about how we're going to stitch our skirt pieces or our pockets to our skirt piece. If I line up right side to wrong side, and then I flip this in, it would be the wrong side on the inside of the skirt. And so what I want to do is instead start by placing my pocket and my skirt right sides together. And I'm going to start by stitching that opening down. So I'm going to do a 1/2 inch stitch, going ahead to stitch my pocket into my side seam. So make sure that your right sides together with your pocket bag on the skirt. So that if this is my skirt back, I can fold my pocket to the inside and my pocket will be on the inside. So we're going to do that for both pockets, sides together. I have not sewn these skirt pieces together yet. So the skirt of our dress or our skirt has not been sewn together. We're starting by sewing our pocket bag individual pieces to the skirt itself first. If I want to keep this nice and pressed and not have to worry about my pocket bag coming out, although this is a really large pocket, we're not going to really have to worry about it for a pocket this size. I can go ahead and understitch it, my 2 seam allowances to my pocket bag, because my pocket bag is going to be on the inside of my skirt. Sides, I'm going to understitch this side. Now, we can talk about how we're going to assemble the whole thing, putting our pocket bags together. Oh, come on, register. There we go. So we've started by taking our pocket bag and our skirt piece, lining up our hip notch and stitching them right sides together. We've then understitched, sewing the seam allowances to the pocket bag itself like this. We did that for both sides. So now, what's also important about having that pocket notch is we can line up our skirt pieces right on top of each other, right at the side seams, and then stitch from the top of our skirt down, pivot and stitch all the way around with my pocket. Come on out to where my initial stitch is, right at my 1/2 inch, and then pivot and stitch all the way down. So I can have one pocket bag sewn all at once into the skirt piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Oftentimes on store-bought patterns, they'll have a little dot where you're going to pivot from your side seam of your skirt to your pocket. So now I've stitched down and around the whole pocket. I have the side seam of my skirt and my pocket is nice and hidden right inside. By doing that under stitching, we're going to make sure the pocket bag doesn't want to flop out at all. But then I can show you now. I'm going to move back over and put all the things in the pocket, and you'll start to see the pocket bag itself the opening start to open more as you put more and more into it. Something to keep in mind. I'm sure you've all noticed that with your own garments in the past. You put too much into your pocket, it creates this kind of funky bulb. So if I have it sitting with just the iPhone in it, you do see that there's a little bit of a pull at the bottom, and we start to see the opening. I'm overstuffing my pocket. You can see that you see a lot more of that opening. And that's going to be because we have now stuffed this pocket pretty substantially and with pretty weighted items. Okay. So I feel like I went pretty quick with doing the inset pocket and with doing the patch pocket. Are there any questions? Do you want me to demo doing that triangle stitch with my patch pocket on this fabric? I'm going to go ahead and do that. Yeah. Great. Okay. So I am going to set my camera back up right here, and we're going to do it that way. Have to install another plugin. Okay. So I have my opening to my patch pocket here. I'm gonna go ahead and put a pin so it doesn't want to rotate on me. And I'm going to start, well, first I'm going to do my top stitching detail right here to keep this nice and folded always. I have a red bobbin. I'm going to go ahead and do it on this side. I have my top stitch right across the top of my pocket here. And now I'm going to take my pocket, pin it down, and I'm going to start with my pocket upside down so that I can get my full triangle and pin the bottom of my pocket as well. So for this, I'm going to start right at the top where my top stitching line is. And I'm going to come up to just about the point of my pocket. I'm going to back stitch, of course. right for the edge of the pocket. This doesn't need to be a very wide triangle, it could be 1 or 2 stitches, depending on the length of your stitches. Now that I've done my up, my over, I'm going to go down and around the edge of my pocket. Repeat the triangle in reverse on the other side. Little scalloped edge pocket would be really cute too. You have a lot of freedom with your pockets as far as your shape. And come back up. Final side. And all the way up to the top. Pivot, do 2 stitches on that side. So I'm going to do 2 stitches on this side. And now I'm going to angle it back down to meet right at where my top stitching detail is on the front of my pocket. And finish it up with a back stitch. You'll see this kind of triangle detail, especially on patch pockets on men's shirts, as well as patch pockets in the back of your jeans. So you can see we have our triangle up and over. So we started here, we moved up towards the edge of the pocket, we came over to the point, and then we went down around the whole pocket, pivoting on each corner because I have corners on my pocket. Finally coming back up, and then coming all the way up to the top, stitching over, and then angling it back to back stitch right here. So was that pretty clear? And the reason we do that is, again, it's just going to add, this is a place of high contact, high stress. It's just going to add that much more resistance to the stress, resistance to tearing. It's strengthening the pocket's adherence to it. We don't have to worry so much around here because, again, the top of the pocket is where hands are going to be rubbing and is going to be grabbing on the items in and out of the pocket. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Are there, I'm doing welt pockets next quarter because we're going to be doing a whole welt pocket sewing demo as well. We're going to do single and double welts. But are there any other pockets that I don't think because cargo pockets are similar to our patch pockets, except we'd have it sit away from the piece. Maybe I'll make a little slideshow for that and send that out if I have time before next week. Is there any, you want to get back to your projects or chat about your half-formed patterns?
I'm going to use the time to work on my project, if that's okay.
Yeah, excellent. So then how's I saw your sketch, Lacey, and you can actually absolutely do a dolman sleeve. I would make it nice and deep because you don't want to just have it this width. You need to consider this whole width of your shoulder and getting in and out of it. You can do your just like how we did our patch pockets. You can do your kangaroo pocket on the front of your sweatshirt similarly, stitching it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll work on my my half form stuff. I did have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So for the placket, is there a seam allowance on the part that's going to be folded in or no?
Oh, are you, I can't remember. Are you actually, you're putting a placket into your garment
Yeah.
for your half form?
Mhm.
Ooh, okay, yes, yes. Here, let me pull open that part of the book. Okay, so yes, we're gonna need to have some seam allowance. Are you doing something more like this placket right here? Can you show me your sketch again?
I'm doing, yeah, let me go grab it.
And while she's grabbing that, Dion, how are you doing?
I try to attach the ruffle to the neckline, but it seems it's too small, too narrow. So I have to redo it and make a larger ruffle.
Oh, you want a larger
Right.
ruffle.
Yeah, it's too small, too narrow, and when I sew it, it catch the stitch. Okay, like this, catch it. So I'm going to remove it and make a bigger one.
Okay.
And it's too small. So actually I attached the facing to
Mhm.
it, and
Around the neckline,
after
right?
yeah, after I put that facing that the neckline facing, and then what is next? Which parts should I sew after the
The neckline.
neckline
Or-
facing?
Um, let me see if I can pull pattern pieces. So you'll want to sew your armholes next. And you'll have to, so you'll lay them on top, fold under where you're going to have your seam allowance, put a pin there, and then you're gonna go from the inside, pinch that
yeah.
in and start to pull it right side out. Then you'll
Okay.
stitch your armhole, you'll push it back through and you'll have your armhole stitched. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can recall that last video.
Mhm.
And what about the side seam?
When the side seams, you'll do similarly. So you'll have your armhole and you'll have your neckline done. So you can come in between your armhole and the center front for the side seam and pinch that corner and pull it inside out and stitch that line.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try it. So I think now I have to rip this a bit.
All right. So when you have that out, I'll see if I think I have a half size cut and maybe I can do a demo tonight, or you can review the video from a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I can review it.
Okay, perfect. Oh, hey, Riley, can I see your sketch, please? Oh, I didn't see a placket in that. So
What we did last week, and I
oh, we
can't remember.
do buttons or zippers, right?
Yeah, we did buttons, and like I couldn't remember exactly how you did it. So like this is the progress that I made so far.
Oh, excellent. So you're saying along the U side, are you adding seam allowance? Is that your question?
I would imagine like there's seam allowance here and here, but it wasn't, but I
Exactly.
figured it.
You're absolutely right. There is seam allowance around the neckline and the shoulder because it needs to sew into it, but it's up to you how you're going to finish that edge. We didn't do seam allowance on our last facing, but some people will turn it in 1/4 inch, stitch it down. Some people will just serge that edge. So that edge has got a lot more flexibility
Okay.
as far as if you're going to add
Alright.
seam allowance or not. Yeah.
Okay. And then, how am I supposed to do the sleeve?
So is it can you show me the picture one more time? I'm only looking at parts of it at a time. Oh, that's just, you're just gonna cut the sleeve. It's gonna be,
Does
you're-
it go like down to here or?
so that's your elbow line, right?
Yeah.
And if the sleeve ends in between your elbow and the bicep, which is the widest part of your line, which comes right here, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna go halfway between the elbow and up there.
Okay, halfway.
And the bicep line. The bicep line is that straight line above the elbow line. Or you could do 1 inch past the bicep line. It depends on how long you want it to be.
Okay, and then I think this is my last question for the Mandarin collar. Like, does it also need to be extended because of the placket, or is it going to be unaffected?
It's gonna be unaffected.
Okay,
Yeah.
those are all my questions.
Yay. gonna be right back. I'm just right here. I'm just gonna step into the other room. I also need everyone's address so they can send a swatch book out. The swatches to everybody. If you can add to the chat or email me, that way I can send it out. And I need the make and model of your machine so I can show you specifically maintenance for the last class. So much information.
Is it the model number that's on the back of my machine?
Yeah, I think, yeah, just give me the Singer. I think it's called the Singer Industrial, and that way I can pull the right maintenance manual.
Okay.
So that there's something specific about it that I need to point out, I can.
have a question. Have you ever patterned a sleeve to cut on the fold?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay.
I mean, unless it's, no. I don't think
Because
so.
there's not, I mean, it's pretty symmetrical, right? Like for the most part,
Mhm.
there would be no reason you couldn't as long as
But
the string
because
line
you're
was
just
going the
doing,
right way.
it's just like a cap dolman, right? It's just sitting right here. So it
Yeah.
you can, but your back and your front of the hoodie will be different, right? Because you have different curves to consider, although
Mhm.
it's very loose. Why not make the sleeve a part of the front piece and the sleeve a part of the back piece? Why cut it on the fold?
Oh, I was truly just asking. Like I was
Oh,
just
because
wondering if
the-
you've ever done it that way.
I don't think I have, because we have different, we have more roundness here, less roundness here. I don't think I have.
Okay. I just, you look at like the block piece, right? And it's symmetrical.
It seems
So
symmetrical, but it's not quite.
it's not quite. Okay, good. Good. Okay. That makes me feel better. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, I'm sorry, I work with knits and make things more complicated, but there is a percentage, like when you're doing a neckband, like if you use rib knit or something, you take the measurement and you multiply it by like, is it 0.8, like 80% for the stretch? Is that right?
It depends on the percentage of the knit. I usually like to have like a 5-inch ruler and pull the knit to see like what the percentage of stretch is against that. It's like
Okay.
percentiles that way. So then what's your question? Like, how do you pattern a piece? Or what do you?
Well, yeah. If I wanted to do a neckband, I guess I'm looking for that measurement because I'm going to add the hood.
Mhm.
And so
Wait, you're
and
gonna do
it's
neckband
good.
and a hood?
No. I was just wondering what the rule of thumb was on the stretch, I guess, because if
You-
it is a knit and it is on the hood, you're still going to want it to stretch like a bit. You're not going to want it to be as tight as a neckband.
Well, the knit itself will open up. Like I always pattern my hoods to fit into my neckband, my neckline. Like
Okay.
I haven't made my hood smaller than my neckline and stretched it into the neckline. Like I wouldn't.
Okay.
So
Okay. So make it be the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you don't necessarily, you'll want to bring the neckline, but you don't want to do it from right here. You'd want to bring it down a little bit, right, to get your head through and comfortable, because you don't have
Mhm.
any opening. It's a pullover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Next question. Will a sleeve walk? Oh, I'm only doing it on one side. So I'm trying to get the sleeve to walk around. And it seems like it's a little wide, like I've got it a little too wide where it's going to connect here. Like the sleeve is a little too wide. But then I move it up to where the seam allowance line is and it matches perfectly. So I'm wondering, too wide?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Seam line has to
Okay.
walk. Can you show me your pattern piece?
Yes, but I was going to try and cut it on the fold. So I'm just telling you. I figure why not try?
Why not try?
For this pattern, I don't know how it would be. I don't know.
I thought
It's not
this-
a.
I didn't think you were
Go
doing
ahead.
it. I'm so sorry. I didn't think you were doing a set-in sleeve.
I guess, yeah, a dolman sleeve.
Mm.
So I guess that's what I've been taught, that it is a dolman sleeve that will come down a little bit.
And then you're gonna sew in another piece here. This
Yeah.
piece right here only needs to be a rectangle if it goes past the bicep.
Okay, it doesn't go past the bicep.
Okay.
It doesn't, but it is bigger up at the top. But it mostly is a rectangle. I'll show you. I'll just show you. Just so you understand my thinking. Okay, can you
Mhm.
mostly rectangle
Mhm.
and then curve part in. So when I line it up to my pattern,
Yeah.
I'm a skosh long, but if I line it up to where my pattern piece would be, it seems to line up. So that's
That
why
looks
I was
fine.
asking.
Yeah, your seam line is lining up with the seam line of the pattern because you need to add your seam allowance to the dolman part of the
Right.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Don't cut that on. What are you talking about? Cutting it on fold on the top portion of it? What
That's how I
line?
have it patterned. Yeah, the top. So it would be, let's see, this part.
Uh-huh.
You're like,
Do it. Let's see it. Let's see it. Go. Try.
I don't know. It was just a thought because it's, I don't know. We'll see. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. No big deal.
Yeah, because
But
I would
it's going to be
think of
stretchy.
this as a rectangle or a trapezoid shape, when they're lower,
Mm-hmm.
because this is all built in. So the cap doesn't have to be considered anymore because the cap is into the front and the back of the pattern.
Right.
The cap is in the front
Right.
piece and the back piece. So if we don't have to consider the cap anymore, we just have to do a piece that to sit on it.
Okay. The other piece is, sorry, my white on white's not very helpful here, my tracing paper.
I can
So
see.
it's, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. So here's back.
Yeah.
Difference in the neckline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just checking to see if where the sleeves were set in, if they were mostly lining up. I know that
So
they'll be a
because
little
of that
different.
angle, if you look over, can I look at the sleeve again? Can you show me the sleeve again? Yeah. I would take out that bottom curve. Can you angle that?
Here?
Yeah, just take out that curve, angle that straight into the sleeve.
Okay.
I think you're going to be happier with the fit.
Okay. I'll give it a shot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry to be a rebel.
No, do it. I mean, if you don't try, like you have to be afraid to, you can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to do something wrong if you're going to grow. Right? You got to try everything. So.
with that, I'm going to hop off. It's just about time. So you guys have a lovely weekend. I'll see you next week.
I was a
You're
little
muted.
late jumping in, so I'm gonna stick around. So if you wanna,
Oh,
you can. Or
I
if you,
have a few things I need to dash off and do, but I have Baby Lock Aria.
okay,
I
Why don't
don't
you
think there's
email-
much for. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead and email me your address then too, and I'll take a look
Okay.
at Baby Lock Aria.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the swatch book. So super excited.
It's coming.
All right,
It's
have a good
it's
night,
coming.
guys.
Good night.
Alrighty, I'm gonna hop off. I don't have any questions. I got all my pattern pieces done. Almost
Yay.
everything is cut out, so we'll see how it comes together.
Excellent, excellent.
All right, see you next week.
See you next week. Are you all
Okay.
dropping off, or do you want any extra time with me?
No,
tonight?
for me too. I'm hopping off too. I just want to, one more thing. I just want to show you the waffle I just sew.
Beautiful.
Like this.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure for the, I mean here, because they are separate. There's separate. Then how can I attach this one to the bottom?
Oh, at the ruffle?
Yeah,
You can,
at the bottom.
yeah, you could stitch them together. Just find out where it's gonna sit naturally on them and sew them together, and then press the seam allowance out and stitch it down. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.